Alright, it is May 3rd, 2022. I am watching the evening news as this Roe versus Wade and this other stuff that I didn't get to study in school. They didn't mention it. There was no word of what an abortion was. There was no option of such. There was whatever. As far as the local elementary, middle, and high school, they didn't speak of it. In the 1990s, late 80s, 1990s, in New York State. What my fear is that there's this radicalized thing that happened. I mean, there's the traditional family and human cycle and alien breeding program where what in this day and age, down this particular path where the star system is collapsing, the humans call it New York. In extraterrestrial or in alien terms, I'm not sure what they call it. I've heard it referenced as Empire State, Big Apple, Gotham, depends on the conversation. What concerns me is their focus at the moment to this word rally, which they get signs out, they get loud and proud. It's their humanness. It's their social convention. I have not partaken or been invited into this level of human participation. I just haven't. So my concern is the severity of the collapse. The real conversation, the real focus, when the damages weren't so vast and so many, and in so many different directions, the conversation would start with sitting before whatever committee or council and saying, I arrived in 1978 to two people who should have never had children. Why was I brought here? If it was for alien breeding purposes, then a proper suitor should have been provided. But there wasn't. There was no attempts at bringing purpose or anything into the area or within my life or life frame. So what is this all for? There's a thing in New York called Planned Parenthood. So Lou and Linda had no planned parenting skills whatsoever in New York. Their civil duty and civil obligations were already violated by whatever was going on in the socioeconomic and global political stage that they have very little input. I don't know that Angelina and my grandfather Antonio or Antonin, I don't know that they had any Planned Parenthood where the area that you're thinking of having children into are expecting, and they have funds set aside, they have nice careers that the children grow into, personality tests, so they're in a field and they're in learning that they enjoy and they participate in the community and everything just works really well, like this utopian society. For some reason, my particular race of humanness, it feels like has been forgotten of completely. So then, in this degrading dystopia, now all of a sudden they're not planning for the cosmic children's arrival. They're not planning by elder law. The areas are unprepared. They're not taking seriously, I mean, myself, I have these marriage certificates, but they don't mean what the humans think they mean. They're just to track because there's no other tracking system. So it's become a real problem. And now the only thing left is this abort word, which by the sound of President Joe Biden, he's like, it's not what the public or the people think it means. It means a whole lot more things. It's a lot more severe. That was his warning, which I heed. When he says that, I'm like, I'm listening. That's what I was afraid of, is that the whatever that they feed the public is like the aftermath. But the society now the homes are totally broken, especially here in New York. I mean, at civic obligations of the preceding two generations already denying access to my race, to even have the ability to plan Parenthood or to reach the heraldry and the coat of arms and the lineage that I needed, or to travel to wherever it was that was prepared to take us on as girls that were of honest means and honest family and wanted such things within their life frame, was not so interested in the college and the whatever, but wanted good things. Like wholesome things. The participation in armed forces was denied or was rerouted to something else for I don't know what reason. But now there's no planning for this parenthood. There's been no attempts that I can see between Linda's generation and my generation, other than a few movie references that I can't capitalize on. They already paid the main actress. They already had like really amazing lives, awards, and like, I mean, like, well, I'm walking around going like, where is this partner I'm supposed to have for life? Because he never showed up. Or if he did, it was like a really like brief hi and goodbye. So now I'm listening to the way that the humans interpret it in this area after New York's already failed by social convention and by civic obligation to my particular situation. I'm sure there's others, I just don't know who they are, where they are. I thought of something else tonight. I'm like, there's something called seizures and forfeitures. Who's handling all of that while the state's in some whatever? So here's what the public outcry looks like. And then this is at state of chaos and confusing level. Because there's this area, it's called Planned Parenthood, but the only thing that they plan is to take care of you after the fact if something happens, or in some, I don't know, I haven't really been, but I think contraception or whatever. But that's because there's no planning for real husbandry and real matchmaking and real personality profiling and really giving a crap about couples finding one another. There's absolutely no effort at all made into husbandry and pedigree and like actually like making a society that's worth living in. It looks like zero effort's been made. But this is the argument you're left with after years of useless, no point in college because they've done nothing with their education other than...
Biden is calling it radical. Pro-choice and anti-abortion protesters have been outside the U.S. Supreme Court expressing their views, as we have showed you, and neither side is shy. Democrats in Congress are promising to restore rights that would be taken away if the draft document becomes the final ruling. That's not expected, though, for at least another 2 months.
This draft, written in February by Justice Samuel Alito, it would not only uphold Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban, but would also overturn that.
And like at my level, where they've already failed at civil obligation or civic obligation, civil and civic obligation, they've failed at socially engineering purpose. They've failed at fixing any of these problems. In fact, they've done a real good at distraction and ignoring completely everything that needed to be tended to. Somehow they socially engineered blocking one so they can't even get to family members that might not be living in New York State. Even finding family members that actively can speak in New York State is difficult.
The 1973 precedent-setting Roe v. Wade.
There was no studying of this. I don't know who gets to study at that level.
It would mean an abortion ban in at least 20 states. Those are the red states you see on your screen. Restrictions in 6 others, they're in orange, and 2 states in yellow.
Now, what's interesting is earlier, they did not mention Puerto Rico or the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, at 6 p.m., they have a map and they're on there. So I don't know who's in charge of that level of reporting.
Their rights are not protected. But in the Northeast, in the West, and other blue states, the abortion laws would not change. And in fact, in the tri-state, they're now stronger than before.
As we mentioned at the top of the show,
now, these are all of the people by 6 p.m. news that are gathering. I think that they mention it's outside of a federal courthouse. I would have no idea how to get there. I mean, this is, again, not something that was taught, not something that was promoted. I mean, I've been withheld from all of this process that the other humans take part in.
Rally for abortion rights is going on right now in Foley Square in Lower Manhattan. You're looking at a live picture of Newscopter 7 of the massive crowd that is there right now. Eyewitness News reporter NJ Burkett is there on the ground for us to begin our coverage tonight. NJ.
Right, Liz, the crowd is growing by the minute. People are pouring into Lower Manhattan. They will soon cover every square inch of Foley Square, a rally that was essentially planned overnight that is now drawing thousands of people. Testimony to just how angry people really are. In the shadow of the federal courthouse, shock and outrage. Thousands of demonstrators, not all of them women, speaking with one voice.
For almost 50 years, we have had the right to abortion in this country, which people fought for, died for, campaigned for, and the idea that it's being taken away by a few people on the Supreme Court, that's why we have to be here.
In Washington, protesters took to the steps of the U.S. Supreme Court, where the draft opinion had been secretly written by Justice Samuel Alito and likely circulated for the past several weeks. It was leaked to journalists at Politico and published online late last night. If the draft substantially holds up, millions of American women, mostly in conservative states, would instantly lose their legal right to an abortion. President Biden today said the implications are ominous.
If it becomes a law and if what is written is what remains, it goes far beyond the concern of whether or not there is the right to choose.
Right, see, he makes the distinction between the right to choose and this abortion, because it's like, I mean, for me, it feels like there's spaghetti strands but someone mixed in like a penny pasta, a spaghetti, a fettuccine, and then maybe some bow ties. Then they threw sauce on it. They mixed it all up, and then they want to serve it as one meal. And digesting it is like, wait, you served what? And this is what's got a very large voice, because I have seen they seem to have this level of education in law and in some degree of confidence that like they know what everything is and they're going to tell everybody what it is. I was not afforded the same level of education, that's for certain, while I was here growing up.
Wake up, everybody!
My body, my choice.
On the steps of City Hall, activists and women and
I stand with Planned Parenthood. Now, is that the part of Planned Parenthood where the lawmakers and legislators and the financiers and the people who supposedly are the good ones in every fight, who actually plan to take children and save them from having to turn into this Hunger Games and fighting for breadcrumbs? Is that to stand up for that Planned Parenthood, or is this the part with the abortion because nobody really wants to be here or live here ever, not under these conditions?
city government condemned the opinion.
You would think it was the year 1950 this morning. Restrictive.
Now, this is what I got going on in New York. Very Democrat in New York City. I've never been a registered Democrat, ever. Because this is the face of what Democrats look like to me, and it is a scary, scary position. It's like everything that took all the education, the money, the funding, the planning, and the opportunity, and closed all of the pathways to success my entire life looks like a Democrat from New York City. That's what it just looks like. Every time I hear them speak, I'm just like, I was like, yeah, I don't hear my future, my children's future coming out from that direction.
State laws have been an increasing part of the landscape to make it difficult for women to access safe abortions and reproductive health care. It is clear that our worst fears are coming true.
Donna Lieberman of the New York Civil Liberties Union said state law would guarantee abortion rights for anyone seeking one here in New York.
That means that women from all over the country can come here and access the health care that they need and deserve.
Reassurances echoed today by Governor.
Protect safe, legal abortion. Again, it's this smorgasbord or this like buffet of plentiful things thrown in under one, and then it misleads the voting and the capture ratios, and it misconstrues all the results. And then what gets even worse is, I mean, I don't even know if they're reporting properly or if it feels like there's voter fraud involved in this for my entire life. Because I really don't feel like my voice has been even able to be heard. I mean, I'm half of one whole of something, and that other half has been missing me since I arrived, and I don't know what his area knows. But I do belong somewhere with someone else, and it does not look like anything that's been in this New York day-to-day catastrophe.
Governor Kathy Hochul.
My promise is that here in the state of New York, we will not stand idly by. Anyone who needs care, we welcome you with open arms.
Now, if you're welcoming all of these people to the supper table, and there's only so many plates and only so many planned for. Does that mean you're just now haphazardly taking money and food out of the appropriate fund and feeding other things that just showed up? I'm just curious, that weren't planned for, because again, that kind of feels how New York State's been running for a while now. It's really frightening.
And back now to the live picture high above Foley Square from News Copter 7. You can see it's a large crowd. You can hear it's a loud crowd, but a peaceful crowd. Chants of fight back, my body, my choice. That's a rallying cry we may be hearing for a long time. Tonight, Foley Square in Lower Manhattan. And Jay Burkett, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Now, again, on population control, if it's between the woman and her doctor and it's a private thing, that's one thing. But I just feel like President Biden said, it seems like such a cooperative, I mean, again, I say pesto, pasta, and cheese, because it looks like it's, I mean, I don't know what the fettuccine noodles are doing, what the bow ties are doing. I'm not really sure what penne's doing in there. And then you get regular spaghetti. It gets, again, I don't know why it's all with the same sauce on top of all the different choices. And selling it like it's one meal.
NJ, thank you. Now to how the public feels about Roe v. Wade. And a new ABC News Washington Post poll out today finds that most Americans support keeping in.
Now, here's the thing. Most Americans, is that so, Mr. Newsman? I'd like to know where the actual facts are on that, because I never studied it in elementary, middle, or high school, ever. It made no sense to me. If it was in a current event in the newspaper, it was whatever they said, but it wasn't like we actually had case law. Wasn't like we were doing civics work. Wasn't like we were getting opinion papers to write. I mean, none of that happened. So I don't understand how he's going that most America, like, is there an actual survey and poll and numbers on that? And then are they properly, like, balanced and quantified as, like, the results actually are at, like, the different levels?
In place the 50-year-old law and a woman's right to choose.
Last 50 years, when I look at Lou and Lynn, they were 30 years into the life game before I arrived, which they should have never had me because they weren't properly, I wasn't properly planned for. But here I am. So that was 30 years ago. So it was like another 20 on top of that. Yeah, again, this conversation's been running on empty and not really working as far as headliners go.
According to the national survey, 54% say the court should uphold Roe, compared with 28% who say the ruling should be overturned. 58% say abortion should be legal in all or most cases. And 70% see abortion as a decision to be made by a woman and her doctor, not by lawmakers.
New York Governor Hochul and New Jersey Governor Murphy are both blasting the draft Supreme Court ruling. And Connecticut Governor Lamont says that he will sign a measure protecting medical providers and women who come to Connecticut from other states where abortions are outlawed. Here's Eyewitness News reporter Marcus Solis.
It's great locally here that we're able to expand those services. However, it makes me a little bit concerned for the rest of the country.
A country divided as the highest court in the land is set to issue its opinion on Roe v. Wade. But Connecticut lawmakers aren't waiting.
Legislation passes. Senator Duff.
Thank you, Madam President.
Voting to expand access to abortion.
This bill that we've passed and which will soon become law is by far the most comprehensive that any state has pursued or enacted.
The law protects women who travel to Connecticut for an abortion from states where the procedure has been criminalized. It prevents medical records from being disclosed and prohibits Connecticut authorities from cooperating in any investigation being conducted in a patient's home state. And it allows any provider sued under another state's bounty provision to countersue and recoup legal fees.
I want to be very careful that people know they can do it safely or
people know that if they come to Connecticut, they can have a procedure safely here.
Planned Parenthood of Southern New England is hailing the legislature's action.
We've already seen patients from Texas coming to Connecticut, and we know that when patients need the care, they need it in a timely manner.
While critics say the law goes too far when compared to those in neighboring states.
Massachusetts and Rhode Island are not the Deep South. They're our neighbors, and they have stronger abortion restrictions than we do in Connecticut.
The law also expands the list of medical providers who could perform abortions, including physician's assistants and midwives. Governor Lamont says he will sign the legislation as soon as it gets to his desk. In Stamford, Marcus Solis, Channel 7. Eyewitness News.
And we will dig deeper into the politics of the league on the countdown tonight at 6:30. Watch wherever you stream ABC7 NY, and we'll be joined by several guests. And then at 8:30 this evening, tune in for our half-hour special in the back.
So it's May 3rd, 2022. What concerns me is this is the bread and circus on the front face of the one tube that is supposed to be, I guess, filling in the gaps for where the educational system in New York failed. I don't really know. Because, like, this is the only, like, national secure news program that we have access to. I mean, I wouldn't know where else do you tap in for, like, insider information to keep yourself safe. It's the nightly news. So anyway, so that's how they're reporting this update, I suppose, or what's going on for Humanville of the humans are up to what now? Yeah, that's what they're up to. Some gathering. I'm still sitting in my room and really confused about pesto, pasta, and cheese and how it all got thrown into one bowl. And why the states and the feds are still skirting around the issues of why aren't the children being better planned for? Like, when does that issue ever get addressed in actuality? Because I see a lot of roadblocks, but not a lot of actual work getting done. Just some distracting pieces. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.